if I can use it.
For me, as like a product leader, generally, I am of the opinion that not everything needs a framework. And so for us as a small company that is extremely agile to begin with, I rather work with incentives, right? Like than having to like always agree on some form of a rigid framework on how we're supposed to work together. The only thing that I say in this case is like, if you find something that makes us better, just present it. And if I find or we find that it does, then I'll pay for it, right? And then we can all use it. You know, everybody has to use it, since in the end, all of our respective work responsibilities are separate enough so that it doesn't really influence what you do or what I do, right? And so in this case, for us specifically at least, the impact that it has is minimal organizationally, but it is still significant on an individual level, and that's how I treat it, right? I treat it as like something that on an individual level, if you want to use it, you can. If you don't, I'm not going to force you. If it makes our lives easier, we can agree to use it. Otherwise, if you get your job done, you get your job done with or without AI, right? Like that's all I am asking for as the person who pays your salary, right? Like as long as you're fulfilling your expectation and going above and beyond, we're not going to have a problem. And so in that case, we don't really use anything formal in that case.
Thank you. I think giving, that's a small recommendation from me, giving individually responsibility for using AI is too hard for one person. I think a department or a responsible person should present AI to the team. I don't know, it's my just personal opinion. And let me ask the future of the game industry in the perspective of AI. So as we can think, after 4 years or 5 years, a small company can do Clash of Clans, I don't know, some AAA games with just one prompt. It's a futuristic opinion, I know, but how do you see? Because the creating game will be easy with the AI for all companies, small and middle and big. So how do you see this creation, development bombing with the feature of gaming industry in the perspective of AI?
So I think probably the guys on the game dev side can comment more, but my quick comments here would be, we already see some studios, so shout out to our friends at Cosmic Lounge and Popscreen, but we see them, for example, leveraging AI to build tools inside of Unity that can do asset generation on the fly inside Unity, that can do level generation on the fly inside Unity for quick prototyping. So that's already something very interesting that we're seeing, and probably there's going to be more of that. So most likely game engines are going to be integrating more of these kinds of tools where you can just open up a project, generate snippets of code, art, things like that very quickly. So I think the prototyping process is going to get much easier, but like we all know that there's a big difference between creating a prototype and making a game that's actually ready for the market. So I think in that sense, there's no replacement for actual expertise that needs to actually polish and validate the things at the end. But on the prototyping side, you're going to be able to basically test things, get early metrics very early on. Even if you're maybe a one-man show, you can validate your ideas and then build a team or find investment around that, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, from my point of view, I don't believe that in the near future, I mean in 5 years, we will have this opportunity to write one prompt and get a really good game. I think probably in 20 years or something like this. And at the same time, I mean, AI is it cannot create something new. So it utilizes what they have right now. So the creativity will still exist. So let's say in narrative, you can ask AI to write story, but right now, and it could write stories, but out of the scope, out of data it has, and it's very difficult to expect really something new. It's good for brainstorming and so on. So I think in 5 years, game development will be much easier for sure. We will skip all unnecessary work or all all work that needs your time, but it doesn't need creativity. But the creativity part will be still on people who are working with these tools. It's one moment. And another thing is it's very difficult to write the right prompt. Let's say right now we have game designers. They are writing GDD, but how many iterations each GDD has? From the very beginning point and from the end point to the end point, it's a very different document because it's ongoing on iterations. Yes, I believe AIs will give us this opportunity to iterate much faster, to test our ideas, to fail fast as we should do. But it is not a silver bullet. So we will still use it. We will still bring our creativity, personality, our wishes to games and bring them to the market. It will be much easier to get to this market for sure with AI tools, and it will be easy to prototype. And on another hand, as I can see right now, there is a huge pushback from players. Like they don't want to play games that was generated by AI. So I think there will be some fights in the future, like AI-generated game, non-AI, handmade game, and something like this, like Apple versus Android, and so on. So I believe the future will be very interesting, very fast, very flexible and agile, but very creative.
Thank you.
I can definitely agree with the last statement, is that players always look for handcrafted adventures. So when we do the A/B testing, a lot of the times we get really negative comments on social media about like, oh, this looks AI generated, which fair enough, it's because it is, right? And so that's definitely a concern that you as a game dev should have. On the more like futuristic point of view, as someone who lives in Silicon Valley and is surrounded by people who love to live their dreams and dream big, that is certainly for now still wishful thinking, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not coming a reality. One of the things that that a lot of people underestimate is how incredibly complex game development is. And I noticed, because I was like, oh, I can learn this, like some programming, all that kind of stuff, right? But it's like, no, you have to have sound design, you have to have the right art styles, you have to have like database management, like you have to understand marketing, like all those kind of things, right? And so one thing that AI can do is operate within a closed system where it knows everything about it, right? So I'll give you an example of Roblox. Roblox has a creation engine that everybody can use to create experiences within Roblox, right? The typical UGC type content. And one of my friends who works at Roblox, he works on their creation engine in order to simplify and streamline the development process for literally kids, right? These are children that are using the creation engine to kind of build worlds block by block and then create logic around that. And the logic part is the part that's the complicated one, right? And so what they're doing is they're giving, I think it's in like closed beta right now, they're giving access to certain creators that then, instead of having to write their own code, give a prompt to the GPT interface. And because Roblox owns the entire ecosystem, the GPT interface knows everything about it, right? That means, in this case, it's actually quite accurate in the way that it's writing the prompt code. So if you're saying like, oh, I want to create a scenario with, I don't know, 15 people of different things that have different backgrounds. I want interactable doors that do this and that, right? It will give you fairly accurately the exact code you need. In this case, their own programming language, right? It's nothing that anybody can use outside of Roblox. But in that case, it actually does work, right? But it only works because Roblox is a massive company that can afford to build its own ecosystem, and also then afford to be able to build the tech that is necessary to have the LLMs that can support this type of data interaction, right? Because that shit is expensive. And so that's something that Unity is trying to emulate with Muse, right? It's like, it's on top of its ecosystem where it knows where everything is. The moment you are stepping outside of that, it becomes highly inaccurate, right? So I think the development will be more towards that, where inside of the ecosystem, you have language models that know what they're doing very well inside of this ecosystem. And so that is going to speed up development. But full-on games, AAA type quality, not going to happen.
Thank you. And if you have any additionally recommendation or suggestion to small companies or who wants to use AI for game development, game design, what do you suggest how they can start to use AI in game development?
So one thing we're doing, for example, at App Agent is we're making use of the custom GPTs that you can build using the ChatGPT Plus. Or like by tapping into the APIs that OpenAI provides. That way you can kind of build your custom GPT that kind of already knows the data that you needed to know, that kind of already answers within the constraints that you needed to answer. So for example, we're using it for business purposes, like for crafting the OKRs for us on a quarterly basis. You know, we give it a lot of the things we're trying to do. It kind of organizes the information for us. And I think also as a small developer, you can make use of custom GPTs in the same way to save time. But another interesting thing I'm seeing across the games industry is using AI to do things that are very customized on a player-by-player basis. So almost touching on live ops kind of operations. But think about like being able to customize, for example, in-app purchases or offerings or pricing, or when to show players certain prompts to buy something. You can now actually start to make
optimization when I think about other options, like what else can I do? What else can I try? I can ask AI, but I cannot expect, you know, like writing one prompt or very good prompt and getting great results out of this for now, at this stage. So we are using it to speed up, and also we are trying right now to connect real in-game and marketing data with the results. So we push creatives and other assets, then check data, and it's very useful for us because, as George said, people can bring their idea as a result of data analysis instead of objective way. So AI can give you kind of objective results and can give you a good base to make a decision. So as I said, AI right now is a tool. It's like a pen. You can do something with this, but you cannot expect pen will write a novel instead of you. But I think in the future, we will have this.
Thank you. I think this is about prompt engineering and how do you write prompt to get effective output from AI is so important for now, I think. And I want to ask you, how do you use its vision capabilities? For example, if you you can upload video or you can upload any image to AI, and you can ask for analyze or segment it. So do you use it on your creatives, on your games? I want to ask just it.
I can comment. Yeah. So let me comment actually first on something you mentioned, which is the prompts. So sure, the prompts are important, but I feel like there's a little bit of overemphasis on relying on magical prompts. In reality, I feel like it's more about using the conversational interface that these AI provide. Like, it's oftentimes you have to have a lot of back and forth with the AI. So like if you're using, for example, ChatGPT or custom GPTs or things like that, you're rarely going to get amazing results from the first try. Usually it gives you the most obvious answers first. So you kind of need to tell it, okay, focus more on this, I don't need that. So there's a lot of conversation, I would say, more than prompt engineering. So that's one aspect we found. But on the other side, which you mentioned, analysis, we have been trying some of these analysis tools to kind of analyze creatives, analyze videos, look at things like how much is the brand highlighted in the videos, what points of the video are kind of most likely to grab users' attention. But again, to be honest, nothing that we've tried so far kind of exceeds what our producers and our artists in-house already have an eye for. So I would say it's more useful right now for us to kind of brainstorm, you know, have some quick ideas, have some suggestions for directions to look into, but nothing at this level is able to replace like the expertise that we have on the team.
Thank you. Do you want to add?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, for us, it's a tool, so we are trying to utilize AI abilities to speed up and to decrease unnecessary workload. So let's say AI cannot make really good in deep data analysis, but we are using it a lot to share with some people. So let's say you have a bunch of data, and there is a person who cannot work with this. And our data analytics team make a pre-setup, and anyone can write and ask AI, hey, what is happening with my game? And receive answer. And it's a dialogue, yes. It's very useful, because otherwise this person from marketing, from production team will come to data analytics team and will be waiting for answer. Here you have a tool to ask, to chat, to talk, and it's kind of, it's not discussion with real person, but AI can give 80% of answers. Then, when this person has a really precise question, then we add data team, and they can talk with each other and find out much better answer. But it's a preparation stage before. Same for creatives, same for assets analysis. Everyone can use it. But then when you come to something that needs experience, you, as a person who are using this tool, come prepared. And on another side, experts can give you much better answers, and you can discuss on real solid basis. So it's our approach for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for us, the way that I like to use it, specifically data analytics, has proven to be quite correct comparatively to some of the other answers that you can get, because AI definitely still likes to hallucinate quite a bit once in a while. And so for data analytics, especially if you're using kind of the most common languages like SQL and some of the denominations of that, because it's a declarative language, It's very good at spitting out the exact code you need, or improving your code or your prompts in order to get or to work with the database that you have, right? And so that is great even for people who have barely any idea about SQL. They will almost always get the right answer, right? And so that's been a great way to, for us, because we're only 3 people, to enable and to empower, for example, my gameplay engineer to also do some data analytics in the background, right? And be like, hey, I need you to also come prepared with data on how this might affect certain parts of the game, right? And here's your ChatGPT Premium subscription, do it, right? Upload it, you can upload the entire data set, you can even give it access to the database, right? So that all makes it very easy to interact with it. The way that I personally like to use it as well is for in-game lore. So like, for example, our game has like hundreds of items, right? But I'm way too lazy to give them all individual names. So I just prompt out what I need, and it spits me an entire Excel sheet full of names that are unique and descriptions, right? And I'm like, perfect. Only copy and paste into the strings, upload it to Unity, and boom, right? Saved me like hours of trying to come up with new names that I haven't come up with. I just said, like, I need 30 rings, 40 amulets, like whatever, right? And just give it like a little bit of background. And so that's been like incredibly helpful in terms of just time saving, right? Like it's such a time saver that I can then go in and be more focused on gameplay elements, right? Like where that's, the stuff that you actually want to do when you develop the game, right? It's like build the core gameplay mechanics. And so in that sense, it's been really helpful for enabling small teams to become decent enough in other parts of game development or the surrounding parts of game development that otherwise isn't necessarily native to what they would be doing.
Okay, you're talking individually usage of AI, of course, because it's new and we're all companies, not in just game industry, but all companies trying to adapt the AI in their workflow, in their daily workflow. But there is a problem because AI is changing so fast. So if you had a framework based on ChatGPT, so after 2 months later, 3 months later, you have to change your workflow because AI has changed. And so what is the challenges to integrate AI beside using individually to get automatically a workflow to your existing framework? And what are the challenges, and what do you suggest, and what are the ways you're trying to find? Yes.
So you put kind of your finger on the problem actually there, because already I guess a lot of people are individually using things like ChatGPT and generative image and video tools. But it's more difficult to kind of integrate that into the company-wide process. For us internally at App Agent, what we've done is we've established an AI council. And basically, we have a member from each of our teams who is responsible for making sure that the teams are leveraging AI and integrating that into our processes. So we are actually making it part of our brainstorming and drafting process and part of our work review process to leverage these AI tools. It's definitely tricky, like you said, and things change super fast. So you do kind of need to, I suppose, make changes in your company, sometimes changes to how managers are approving things or how the structure is, but you kind of need to make sure that there are people who are responsible for staying on top of that, because otherwise if each person is just focusing on doing their own work, it's hard to actually stay at top of things.
Thank you.
I would say there are 2 main issues for us, probably for everyone. First of all, people. People used to follow some way, and it's very difficult to make them change it. So we spent a lot of time trying to bring this idea to employees' mind. Like, if I can do this with AI, can I decrease my workload? Because on the other hand, people are lazy. So we are trying to use people laziness, and it works. But yeah, you're right. Everything is changing too quickly. But thanks God, we are working in a very flexible and agile industry. Because I cannot imagine using AIs right now in government. Because when they will start doing something and implement it, years will pass. So we are lucky on this side, but at the same time, right now we are motivating everyone to think from this side. Can I skip this work? Can I give this work to robot? Can I give this work to AI? Is it possible? Is it possible to do this quicker, cheaper, or spend less time on it? And I think we, all of us right now forgot about localization. Let's say normally to make localization you need to go to agency, spend some time waiting for results, but what if you need to have 30 translations or 100 translations? It will be too long, but if you use AI, it's not perfect. Sometimes it's possible to use it right away, but in most scenarios, you do localization using AI or ChatGPT or other models, and then you give it to localization team. And the localization team spend 10 times less. It's so amazing, but you need to think on this topic first. You need to think, okay, can I do it much quicker? So it's what we are trying to bring to the table, and everyone, on every meeting, on every task, first trying to think.
And one for you. I'll give this one to you. Yeah. Kayıt başladı mı? Hello everyone again. Now we have Pavel Istomin from Joy Game, George Elhabr from App Agent. We have Yannick Helmich from GG Game Studios. And we have Toyan Shayan from Handler AI Games. Welcome you all. And they are going to have a panel. It's about AI-driven future, pioneering game development and marketing. Yeah, you may start. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome to again. I want to start with a general question first. Maybe we can know you better. First of all, what are you doing? And secondly, how do you see AI and game development nowadays? There is a hype, of course, in every industry, not just game industry, but is game industry catch this AI hype, or what do you see generally nowadays? Just this.
Sure. So I'm George. I work at App Agent, which is a mobile growth agency. So we're focusing on the marketing side of things. But I also have a background in mobile game development for over 7 years. So I guess I can comment a little bit about both angles. But I see AI really as empowering, first of all, the smaller developers, because nowadays you can do a lot of things that previously needed bigger teams. So you can now basically do things like generate assets easily. You can do things like generate text and copy for marketing and things like that more easily. So it's definitely shortening the time for prototyping. So that's one aspect. The other aspect I would say is on the marketing side, we are experimenting a lot in terms of like drafting our creatives, drafting material for our campaigns. It's still, to be honest, a little bit early with most of the tools. So for us, it's limited to drafting. We still have to kind of go in and rework some of the things. But overall, in general, it's really making a lot of things faster and making it possible for us to crunch a lot of data quickly. So.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pavel from Joy Game, and I'm responsible for in-house development. So I'm head of in-house development studio. So before that, I was working on publishing side. So I can see from different angles this topic. And I would say AI is really cool tool for everyone right now, but I would say it's on a very early stage. I can make analogy. It's like we have mobile phones, but very, very early mobile phones we can call, but we cannot do what we used to do right now. So I think in the future, in coming 2-3 years, we will use AIs more. They will be much more useful. And right now, yes, they are speed up a lot on development side, on idea generation, on something that you don't need huge experience, huge expertise. So let's say AI models good for brainstorming, for assets. If you educate the model very well, you can get really good assets out of this, but still they need some polishing from artists. Because I recognize AIs right now at this stage as a junior guy who can help you with everything. And it could be marketing, it could be creative, it could be game development. But let's say you cannot ask AI right now to write code for the game. It's impossible right now, but I think in the near future it could be possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Yannick. I'm founder of my own game studio, but I'm also managing director for a Chinese-based publisher of PC games, based out of San Francisco, but originally from Germany. And so when I founded the studio last year, one of the things that I thought about, a year ago is already a long time ago for the AI developments that we've had. So nowadays we're a little further than we used to be. But one of the big challenges for game development with AI, or that AI has with game development, is that that game development is extremely object-oriented in the way that you're interacting with the engine and stuff like that. But all the tools are outside of the engine, so meaning you can only feed it certain information, and it doesn't know anything about the actual objects in your scene, about all of your scripts, so the interconnectivity of those things. So you can really only go in and ask it specific questions about like a challenge that you have or a problem that you're trying to solve, right? So all of the hype around like, oh my God, we're going to be able to develop video games in like 2 days. Just give it like a prompt and all that kind of stuff and it'll do everything for you, right? That's not how it works. The closest that we'll get soon is probably Unity's Muse, I think they call it. I had a early stage showcase of that at their developer conference in San Francisco. But even that is mostly focused on asset generation, specifically sprite sheets, which would be a great help, right? Like, as someone who myself, I'm not very artistic. I use artists, human and for certain types of in-game assets. I also use ChatGPT for the most part, because I find the image generation to be the best for pixel art, specifically. But yeah, for the most part, I see it as a process enhancer, right? Like it drastically accelerates your learning curve, and it drastically decreases the hurdle that it takes to learn something new. And so that's kind of how I've been using, or our company has been using this for the most part.
Thank you, and I want to share my work with AI after the panel. Maybe you can change your thoughts. Maybe. Let's see after panel. So I want to ask you specifically for marketing perspective first. So AI can generate marketing assets, but it can also help for creating a user acquisition strategy and segmenting customer, targeting customer to from two perspectives. One is generating creatives, and the other part is targeting and analyzing data. How do you see new generative AI system can help this user acquisition and marketing strategy?
Sure, so I can comment on that. We're a strategy-focused mobile growth agency, so strategy is really a big part of what we do. And we are using AI in terms of speeding up our prototyping process, like you said, for creatives, for the material for UA campaigns and things like that. So that's kind of on that level, but what we see as much more promising is the strategy side of things. It's much trickier to leverage AI for that, to be honest, but what we're trying to do is basically use it to crunch a lot of data. So for example, go through a huge list of creatives that competitors, for example, are doing to understand what kind of creative angles are being used. We're also using it basically to feed it a lot of the data that we have so that it can give us quick conclusions. At the end of the day, it can't really spit out a strategy for us, but what it can do that we weren't really easily able to do before is really digest a lot of data quickly and pinpoint some things that we should focus on. And for us, that's kind of like the meeting of three different dimensions, which is like speeding things up, looking at things from a more objective lens, because human beings can be a bit biased when processing data. But also in terms of basically, like I said, crunching data. So we're kind of trying to leverage it to help us gather insights that inform our marketing strategies.
Thank you. And other question is...
Can I? Oops, sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Because I run our own marketing too for our company. And one of the things that always obviously comes up is that for marketing, specifically for social marketing with Meta, Facebook, Google, and so forth, you need a lot of revolving assets, right? Because the fatigue sets in fairly quickly. One thing that I noticed for us is that it drastically sped up the way that we can conceptualize. I prompt engineer a specific image, and I just throw it into the algorithm, right? Like I'm just give it like I'll give it like the headlines, the subjects, and all that kind of stuff, and I'll see A/B test which of these concepts in terms of the images that we have, and maybe there's a little bit of Photoshop that I've done over it, right, just to like kind of take the edge off of it. But once these actually, once I get a winner in an A/B test, I can then go to an artist and be like, hey, this is the concept that I want to actually realize. Maybe even make a video out of it, right? Like a gameplay-focused video, anything like that. Actually, right now, we're running one that I didn't even bother having to have someone create because it worked so well. I think we're getting like a 23-cent CPI on an RPG. So I was like, I just let it run, right? But generally, that's kind of the best way that I found to utilize it is to use it as a concept artist, and then once you kind of find the data behind the creative, you can then go ahead and actually place a bet, right? And it just costs me nothing, except for the marketing spend, obviously, but like otherwise, every single time I have to create assets, it's a couple $100s for an artist, right? And you just never know if it's going to work. So this is a great way to kind of save a lot of money and then really place more intelligent bets.
Yeah, I would agree with other teammates. But as I said, it's on early stage. Yes, it can speed up a lot, but let's say we had a test and the quality of, let's say, icons is really good. But I mean the quality in terms of how it performs. The icons that were produced by real people, they work better. So out of 40 options that were provided by AI, only 1 or 2 was working, and the chance of make a mistake in this case is higher, so we need to test a lot. But when you have an experienced guy or girl, you can quickly, not quickly, but you can be sure that it will be much better performing. But it helps you to speed up. So on early stages, it's very useful. If I'm doing some prototype and I don't think about App Store optimization, okay, it doesn't matter. I can make screenshots, icon, whatever I can, because it will take 5 minutes for me to make them. But when I'm working on direct, not
Of some tools that can analyze the player's behavior and figure out when is the right time to show them a package to buy in the game, or that kind of stuff. So that's something very interesting I think smaller devs can start to look into.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I agree about custom chat GPT models, and also for developers, I would suggest to use AI more on asset side. Right now, it's not great of working with 3D models, but as for 2D art, it's pretty amazing. But you need to spend some time first to try to educate your model to have a consistent art. Otherwise, you will receive constantly something, something very different, and it's not great for the game itself. Yeah, just as I said, try to think every time, like, can I do this job much quickly using AI? But as for LiveOps, I still believe that machine learning algorithms are much more suitable for this, because you cannot give everything to AI in this case, because AI is a bit more complicated system, and ML algorithms are more suitable because you need to give the clear goal and to give access to database, and it will be more than enough. And if you want to reuse it, in most scenarios it's not possible. If you want to reuse it with another game, you will need to educate model one more time, or you need to give access for AI to both games, and there is a huge chance that AI will mix something because of different data blocks. So I think we need to think if we can speed up, if we can do this, but like first before that, if we had some extra work, we were thinking, okay, if I need to find to hire some person to do this work, right now, first thing, if I need to find AI that can do this work, if answer is no. If I need a person to do this work, if answer is no, probably you have no work to do.
Yeah, for us, as a small team, and because game development is so universally complex, I recommend generally the way that we used it is to fill in the gaps of knowledge, right? So again, I'll give you an example of how we used it. Is that I wanted to implement a version check into our game, right? Because it's still in early access, so I want people to constantly be able to update it without me having to remind them all the time, right? But that required us, and I was using Firebase at the time, right? And that required us to understand how to interact between the device, the client, and the database, right? And which database it's supposed to be. And the database is a different language. And if you're trying to compile languages between each other, that's always a pain in the ass, right? It's always the worst job trying to make a script work that translates one language into another. That is by far the most error-prone area of programming you can get into. And so if you don't even know the other language, ChatGPT or whichever LLM or Gen AI thing you want to use is amazing in giving you the tools to make it work, right? It's great at giving you that head start of saying like, oh, I am doing this. Even though it doesn't work, I can now go to someone who has a bit more of an idea and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, can you fact check it, right? Or like go to, most developers are part of some Slack channels or Discords where you can just throw it out a little bit, right? And so that's how I personally learned how to use the Firebase command line interface to set up servers and like cross-reference everything. And it took me about 2 to 3 days of learning compared to what otherwise probably would have been weeks of trying around, right? It also did help that my boyfriend works at Google as a cloud engineer, but that only came after, right? And so that for me is probably the best way to use it, as small teams always naturally have knowledge gaps. Use it to kind of try to fill this as much as possible. No need to be fancy, right? No need to be fancy at all.
And thank you. And if you have any addition, you can say finally your final words. And if I want to briefly talk about this panel, is the conclusion is it's in early stage. It can't be doing in AAA games in 5 years. Maybe it can do it in 20 years. And the bottleneck is still is rapidly evolving technology and the human barrier we talk about. The human or people don't want to deep into AI, how to use it, but it's evolving rapidly. So if you have any addition to this conclusion or something, I can take your final words.
Sure. So one thing we try to focus a lot at in App Agent, especially in the current climate where UA is becoming, more expensive, more risky, more difficult, is to really focus on your strategy. It's these days you don't want to be kind of just experimenting and throwing things at the wall without some kind of framework of testing and some kind of hypothesis testing, because you want to narrow down your experiments, you want to extract learnings as fast as possible. So as part of that strategy building, I would suggest that the smaller studios out there try to actually understand their audience by leveraging these AI tools. So try to understand what are the motivators of your players, what are some possible strategies to target these people, to find creative angles that resonate with them. This is basically pretty much at this point, I think, a requirement if you want to do user acquisition. You want to build some hypotheses, get some understanding about your audience, and if you're kind of new to doing all of that and don't have the expertise in-house, it could help to get ideas from AI, for sure.
Okay, as a short summary, yes, to be honest, I'm so excited about AIs right now. It's really useful tools, but we should think right now that it's tool. Yes, you can speed up something, you can speed up your production, you can use it for assets, you can use it for localization, sometimes for music, if it's not a main part of your game. And you can think how you can use it from a high perspective, from top perspective, if it's possible to give this job to something, to the tool, to AI. It's one thing. And another thing, we should constantly remind that we are working in creative industry, so we need to be as creative as possible. And I think even we can find really creative ways of working with AIs. And in the near future, I think AIs will be everywhere. I mean, in support, in call center, in every aspect of the life, but I still think it's kind of a good analogy about mobile phones. We are on the early era. We are in the very beginning, and it's so great to follow this process one more time. How this rule changer, how this world changer is coming and changing our usual life. Not only in gaming industry, everywhere, in all industries, in all areas of our life.
Maybe less of a synopsis and more of what I'd also be very excited to see as both someone who is on the game developer side, but also as a gamer itself, as a player of games, is how it can more dynamically build, or how it can influence dynamic world building, right? So I think it won't ever really replace a well-crafted man-made story, right? Like that main story element that people want to play. But all the peripheral areas of how NPCs interact with each other, how they interact with you as the player, currently it's basically all hard-coded, right? Like they give you a few options of this is what you can say, right? And then you get the same answer back. And so there are already some technologies that try to touch on that, but it's mostly cloud-based, so it's like awkwardly slow, right? So once that is client-based, I think there's a huge opportunity for game developers to really enhance the immersion within a game, so that they can give these NPCs or the non-player characters throughout the world more character, right? Less of like a paper mache kind of front and more of a a commentator of what's happening around you. And I think that would be a great tool to interact with players in such a more immersive and dynamic way that it doesn't break the illusion as fast, right? Because like once you hear the same fucking sentence 3 times in a row, you're like, yeah, I get it, right? Or like once you got that like random quest appear and every single time is the same fucking quest, right? You're just like, well, I get it, right? Ignore. And I think that's the point where, especially in bigger open worlds, there's a lot of potential to really drill down on the peripheral storytelling.
Thank you, and let's finish if you're okay. Let's finish the panel. Thank you for listening, and if you want to add or say something, you can say. But I asked all the questions, I think.
I would say thank you for your attention, and I think we can discuss later. So yeah, it's a really nice topic. So we should talk, we should discuss, and we should share our experience, how we are using it, how we are going to use it, and what we want out of AIs.
Yeah. See you at the party later.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.